Hey, VC here. I had the pleasure of hosting Francis, Lawrence, and James, a couple UK boys, on their trip through California, doing a tour of California, like self-supported. Super crazy. They started in San Diego, they went up to Vegas, through Mojave Desert, through Death Valley, into Yosemite, to my house, where they spent 3 days. Then I drove them to San Jose to finish their leg up the coast in the Bay Area to Oregon. This is an awesome journey. This is like super inspiring. I'm very inspired by their journey, and a little envious of just their ability to get out there and explore the world. But I had some questions, sort of just about like, how's the food? What's the roads like? You know, how are you guys getting on? Like, just all these questions that I think you might also have. Help kind of put their journey into context. So if you haven't been watching their journey, I really highly recommend you go and check out their channel, because they're pumping out vlogs on the daily, kind of documenting this trip. If you have already been watching their journey, then these questions might add as a little companion, add a little context, answer some of your questions that they haven't been able to answer in the comments because they're maybe more long-winded. Now, when I sat them down, Francis had an infection in his ovaries, so he wasn't able to join us in the conversation, but I had James and Lawrence, and I asked them these questions. So what is the entire route?
We started at San Diego.
And you're going to finish?
We're going to finish in Portland. It's not a direct route. It's not as the crow flies. So we basically go San Diego to... the major cities are San Diego, LA, Las Vegas, through Death Valley, Yosemite, back to San Francisco, and then basically hugging the coast all the way up to Portland, through Bodega Bay, Fort Bragg, Eureka, Salem.
Like, what is it that you're riding?
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough to be sponsored by a team. I ride for a team, and they provide bike sponsor, and so they've sorted me out with a really cool adventure bike, which is specific for this purpose. It's wider clearance, slightly more comfortable, titanium frame, and it's been really fantastic. Francis has a similar setup.
Yep, very similar.
Both
aluminium
disc brake bikes, and then James here.
So I'm riding my winter bike, which is a custom steel frame that I designed. I designed the geometry for it. Basically put deep section carbon wheels on it. The only gripe I have with that bike is the fact the front end is a little bit too low, that my handlebar bag rubs on my tyre every now and then. But I've figured that out by not packing so much to my handlebar bag.
How many bags do you guys have on the bikes?
Well, Lawrence and I are both using bike packing luggage, which is frame bag, handlebar bag, and seat packs. It's conventional Apidura stuff that you'll see in the Transcontinental and the Indian Pacific Wheel Race and all these kind of endurance events. Francis is using a slightly more unorthodox system, which is it's called a tail fin, which is a retrofittable carbon fiber rack system that mounts on the quick release skewers. It replaces the quick release skewer, and then you've got kind of two pannier bags on the side of it. He went for that purely for the fact that he needed to carry 2 laptops. Both these guys are editing film and need laptops, so it's kind of really the only option, wasn't it? For Francis carrying stuff.
It's less aero, but it does mean that he can pack each morning in 5 seconds flat, whereas it takes us about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
What has the training been like to get ready for this?
I'm smug. I can just sit here and do that.
So Lawrence is... I started off at the beginning of the year doing a hell of a lot of training, and then ended up with Condra Malaysia because I ride quite a lot of fixed gear back home. And so actually hypochondria set in, as in I was just paranoid about it. And so I took a whole load of time off the bike. Meanwhile, our little friend... who was racing Red Hook Crit, broke both of his arms. So Francis and I have not been in the shape that we expected to be in. We've both been off the bike for over a month. So
the perfect lead up, right?
Yeah,
perfect.
Right. Yeah,
absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
We were well rested.
What essentials did you bring?
What essentials did you bring, mate?
Well, Francis...
No. What essentials did you bring?
What essentials did I bring?
Your drone, your laptop, and clothes do not count as essentials.
What's an essential? Toothbrush? Francis brought a shaver, not just any, not like a razor, like an actual thing, and I have to carry it. And also, he brought the most ridiculous thing he brought is a mouse, like a computer mouse, right? It's like this big, and he's carried it across the desert. A mouse.
He insists on it though. You take his mouse away from him. In terms of essentials, I basically mechanical support. So I've got all the tools. I have a first aid kit. I've got foil blankets in there, which can be turned into tents, or shelters at least.
He's got a Swiss Army knife,
which has proven surprisingly useful.
That's
especially when cutting up socks to use as gauze for your nosebleeds.
More difficult, less difficult than you thought it would be?
Definitely more difficult. I think we underestimated it. I think we got a bit cocky, didn't we?
I think I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't think we would be pushing our bodies to the limit like we have been. Like, it's been touch and go at times whether we'd even make it to our hotel for that night.
Yeah. I think the main thing that we massively underestimated was the heat, particularly in the desert. I mean, you ride in 35 degrees at home, which is like 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're kind of okay. But riding in the desert is just a completely different ballgame altogether. But I really enjoyed the challenge of that. I was in a very, very bad way, and
we can say that now.
We can say it now, yeah. But I was in a I particularly was in a very bad way. In one of the desert legs, I ended up getting sunstroke and horrendous cramping and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely harder. But we never said it was going to be easy, right?
That's what you keep telling us.
Yeah.
But what so far has been the hardest part of it?
Definitely Mojave. Without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, it was the thing that made it tough. I think was 135 miles in. A lot of the day was over 40 degrees, and that's just ridiculous. This is 110 degrees, and there was a point in that ride, I think, where it was 50, 60 miles without any water stops, and there was we ended up in a place called Kelso, which is in a valley. We had a 13-mile descent into Kelso and a 13-mile climb out of it, and we got there and we were all cooked already, weren't we?
Luckily there was water. It was warm.
There was,
but there was water. If there hadn't been water there, we wouldn't have made it. 100%. We wouldn't have made it. We were in a real state coming out of that.
And it was what was it? 2 hours?
Yeah,
2 hours. It was like a 2%, 3% gradient climb, maybe more actually in parts, but it was utterly brutal.
Yeah.
Food? How's the food been?
The food here has been such a welcome relief, and we have to thank you immensely for absolutely spoiling us, because we've been somewhat reluctantly living off burgers and pancakes.
I'm so looking forward to coming here.
Yeah, just there's only so many pancakes you can eat,
I think it's been a struggle. I mean, particularly in the places that we've been in the desert. When you pitch up at somewhere like, certain places where literally all there is a Denny's. And you have to kind of pick through, and not there's anything wrong with Denny's, but when you keep going into towns and all there is a Denny's, it becomes a bit draining after a while. In terms of sports nutrition, we've been sponsored by Vela Forte, who is a really great nutrition product. But yeah, food generally. I mean, I love American food, but I think I've struggled.
It's just the quantity you need to eat for riding the amount that we have. You need to eat so much. I think the Mexican food's been a welcome relief when we can get our hands on a little bit of Mexican. But the biggest thing I find myself craving here is fruit. It's really hard to get hold of. And just at home, every ride I go on, I take a banana. And here, Yosemite's quite good for bananas. You can get them, but everywhere else in America,
It's the only place you found it, though.
Yeah,
we didn't have bananas until we got through the gates of Yosemite.
I was so excited to see a banana.
Yeah. We both were. We were rejoicing.
Yeah.
How much time did you put into planning the logistics of the trip?
Months.
Me and Francis did nothing. We didn't even know where we were going, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Months.
This guy.
Like, so I've spent the last few months. I plotted a route first, and then I spent the next couple of months basically spending way more time on Google Earth than I wanted to, because I mean, even coming through Yosemite, there's not a lot there. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be absolutely sure that we could get water, get food. So I basically plotted routes, and I plotted stops where we could find food and water from. And there have been some surprises, haven't there? I mean, so coming up through Angeles Crest, which is leg 2 from LA to Barstow, we kind of ran out of water prematurely because it was a lot hotter than we thought it was going to be, and we found like a campsite and it had a tap, right? So we've been, I think actually we've been really lucky, haven't we?
We have.
With
there was a couple of close calls, and we were certainly getting a little bit nervous. But yeah, we've kudos to James for plotting the route well so far.
Are you backing up any of this footage?
Well, so we both have YouTube channels, and we're making videos as we go along. We're both trying to make as many videos as we can. I have to skip a few days here and there because Francis is so fast on the edit. But we're also keeping the footage, and with the aim of potentially, hopefully, fingers crossed, making a movie when we get back, with lots of behind the scene clips that maybe don't make it into the vlogs, and we'll come home with a lot of awesome footage, and we just feel like maybe it would be cool to make something more of it.
What do the videos not convey?
Do you know what I think Francis is very guilty of, and myself to an extent, of when it gets really hard, you don't want to take a camera out.
No.
I think I've done a slightly better job of conveying just how hard it's been, but on the whole, it's really difficult to capture, just because when you're broken in pieces, when he's screaming in pain because of his cramps,
it's not like you're gonna get your camera out.
Right, you don't get your camera out because you're gonna get a slap.
Yeah.
So there's been a little bit which we haven't been able to put on film, but we've tried to kind of capture just how difficult it's been. And I think the fact also that Francis is downstairs, not feeling well
passed
right now,
out,
is a sign that, you know, we're pushing ourselves to the limit.
How many rest days did you plan?
One of the things that I wanted this trip to be was to have a reasonable element of flexibility, so that we could just kind of go, which is why I haven't booked accommodation past San Francisco yet, because, you know, we wanted to have the flexibility of staying here an extra day or two, or staying in San Francisco for an extra couple of days, in case, on the off chance that we found somewhere that we kind of quite liked and wanted to spend a little bit more time there, and we could. I think the first couple of weeks we didn't really take any time off. I mean, we took a day a full day in Vegas, and we've taken 2 days here, but you know, so I mean, we're here for 31 days, and there are 21 legs. So, you know, that leaves us with 10 days of rest days.
What have you thought road quality versus here versus London?
It differs massively.
That's a good question.
It was shit at the top of the climb today, but for the most part, it's been pretty good, hasn't it?
It has been very, very good, yeah.
It's been mostly consistent. Mostly.
I'd say on the whole better, other than the fact that we've been riding on main roads and there's lots of little shards, and we've been very lucky with punches. But on the whole, I'd say probably better. Yeah,
definitely better. I think we've spent more time than we'd like to have done on freeway and highway. So there's quite a lot of kind of swath and that sort of stuff, isn't there, that we've picked up. But yeah, definitely better quality roads.
Did you have any main landmarks that you wanted to hit?
World's tallest thermometer. Death Valley was really high on my list. And I think, well, one of the reasons, so initially this whole trip started out a couple of years ago between you and a few others before I'd met these guys, of going from West Coast to East Coast or East Coast to West Coast, going across America. And with the greatest of respect to America, I thought that was a pretty shitty idea, because there's not a lot in the middle of America.
Not a lot there.
There's a lot there, but I imagined it as straight flat roads, and actually I actually plotted a route, and the topography was up over the Rockies, and then it was flat to New York, more or less. So I had this idea of, well, look, America is just too big to do in a month. Why don't we do a tour of California? And we thought, well, if we go from San Diego straight up to Portland, it's kind of a little bit easy, really, isn't it? I mean, it was like 1,000 miles, something like that. So we thought, well, let's go and do Vegas. Let's make it a little bit harder. So we went from San Diego to LA all the way out of Vegas through Mojave, and then back through Death Valley, and then to here.
And it's been tough. It's been tough. I don't think any of us realise quite what we were signing up for. And we've had an overwhelming amount of people on YouTube going, "You guys are crazy. What are you doing?" Like,
What's the craziest thing that's happened so far? Like, what's the craziest event or story?
like 3 hours ago. Coming down that descent.
All right. I tried to block that out.
Yeah.
Other than that,
The craziest thing, man, like,
my cramps.
yeah, your cramps. I've never heard anyone scream like a fully grown man scream like that. And the worst thing was, as I went over to try and help him stretch his leg out. You see, and by stretching out the other one, the cramping muscle, the other one goes on the top. So he was cramping in the calf and also the quad, or something like that. And it was just he was in a bit of a way.
Oh, you remember like looking at my quads, and my quads kind of looked like there was something underneath my skin.
Yeah, they were like
it was horrific. I've never seen anything like it. I've never experienced anything like it.
And that was what, the 4th day into our trip, and at that point I was thinking, oh crap, what have we got ourselves into here?
Yeah.
So what have the accommodations been like?
We've been pretty lucky, haven't we?
We have. It started a little bit rough.
Yeah.
The first few we stayed in were a little bit rough, and it's pretty much got nicer.
And then we got to Yosemite, and we stayed with this shifty family. But no, like honestly, the motels and hotels we've been staying in, I kind of had these kind of nightmare premonitions of cockroaches and shit everywhere. And I think the worst place we stayed was Panamint Springs.
Don't go there.
I'm gonna call them out because people need to know not to go there.
We're gonna leave bad TripAdvisor reviews, I think.
Panamint Springs Resort, no Wi-Fi. They pitch you as having air conditioning, but it was 30 degrees in that room.
And also, we got there at like 8 a.m, which is early for check-in. But James asked very nicely, "Is there any chance of a early check-in?" Expecting maybe like midday or 2, and no help whatsoever. We had to stay in the heat of the day, and it was exhausting.
It was, wasn't it? That was probably one of the worst days.
Completely.
Because it was, I think we were sat outside in the heat for like 7 hours.
Just completely unwilling to help, and that's a shame,
Yeah, because everywhere else has been amazing, actually.
And going to these amazing places, does it sort of just lose its umph?
No, not one bit. If you watch some of the videos, I know that there are certainly actually in both of your videos there are points where we are just screaming like with delight. We're like kids in a playground. America's got it just keeps on giving. We keep coming around corners and just going, look at this view. What is that all about? We descended into where we in Independence, I think, and we climbed out of Death Valley and over the crest of this hill, and there was the mountains of Yosemite and desert in between, and it was just it's stuff like that you just don't. None of us, I think we've been discussing, haven't we, that Mojave was and the desert in general has been the biggest surprise for us. We both knew Yosemite was going to be spectacular, but the desert was something else. I mean, it's just incredibly beautiful, incredibly hostile and cruel, but beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah, stunning.
As an elite high-level racer, does this burn the fire of your training more?
I've been racing since I was 8 years old. That's a long time I've been racing, and you can race forever, but unless you're getting paid a lot of money for it, it only gives so much. And I kind of feel like this trip for me has been such a huge breath of fresh air, and I just feel like by no means am I gonna give up racing this year and do this for the rest of my life. But I feel like there's a big potential. There's a big void that can be filled with this kind of adventure stuff. I've always seen myself going into this kind of adventure, kind of riding and endurance riding, and this as a first taste of that. I mean, it's been pretty special.
What is the recovery plan once you get back?
There won't be much recovery. It's more going to be about what do we do next?
Yeah, what do we do next?
Where do we go next?
Yeah, this has made us hungry. We want a part 2.
It's the big question. So I kind of like the idea of coming back to America and doing another part of it, but I think there are talks of lots of different parts of the world.
But that wasn't the question, was it?
So are you going to recover? 31 days. I mean, maybe not all riding, but
do you know what my plan was? To fly back on the Saturday and then race on the Sunday.
Badass, dude.
I've re-changed my plan, having realised how much it takes out of you getting here and the amount of time that it takes. But I'll probably take maybe 5 days out and then have a race the next weekend and see where the legs are at.
Land, go to work a couple of days later, get pissed on Saturday night and go for 100 miles on Sunday.
So yeah, I have a full video of the story of their stay here at my house. That's coming out soon. But I didn't really film a whole lot. I didn't really get any good footage. I more was trying to be a good host. I wanted them to leave this area thinking, dude, the VC lives in the best place on the planet and he cooks the most amazing food. That was like my thoughts. And I think I nailed that. But at the cost of maybe not having amazing footage. What do? Do you experience life, or do you get behind the camera? This was one of those moments where I wanted to experience a little bit more of life, but nonetheless, full video coming out soon. Go check out Lawrence, go check out Francis, follow James on Instagram. It's a cool journey, man. As always, thanks for watching. Vegan Cyclist. Yeah.